And now I would like to introduce Dr. Andrew Fleming, who became the Deputy High Commissioner to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana in July 2007. His role includes promoting business and trade between the UK and India's Telugu region and connecting with people on local issues. For example, Dr. Andrew participated in Swachh Bharat initiatives to clean up Hyderabad and encouraged others to join. As the head of the Deputy High Commission, he has supported projects on community cohesion and interfaith, countering violence against women, human trafficking, child sexual abuse, fake news, and youth empowerment. Andrew joined the British Civil Service in 1986 and has held a wide variety of roles in the UK and abroad. He has worked in Uganda, in Ghana, and in most recently Nigeria, but has worked on international policy issues in many parts of the world, including South Asia. Aside from many years working on international migration issues, he has also advised ministers on community cohesion and faith-related policy. He observed elections in Ghana in 2008 and Nigeria in 2000. So this was just a brief introduction on Dr. Andrew Fleming. So sir, I would like you to share your journey with us.
Thank you, Reshma, and thank you to the rest of thinking to invite me this evening. I have to be careful because I'm in the UK and it's lunchtime and I get confused with all the time zones. But usually I am, as you say, based in Hyderabad and a regular visitor to Andhra Pradesh. And I'm very touched that you can remember the first thing I said to you. That's nice to know, nice to hear. And I see that your journey has progressed a long way since then. I'm so happy to see you in this environment, working on something that I know is very close to your heart. I think that's great to see. For me, my own journey, let me try and tell it in a very condensed way. I'm happy to answer questions. So I grew up about 50 meters from where I'm sitting now in South London, and the house my father, who's nearly 90, still lives. I didn't have a very happy childhood. I really hated school. I really didn't have very many friends, and I didn't really understand why that was. But in later life, I came to understand that I had some neurodiverse issues. I had dyspraxia and dyslexia. Dyslexia, of course, has been made well known in India thanks to the intervention of Bollywood. But dyspraxia is something that is less well known in India, but still affects perhaps as many as 2 children in every class, and it's more to do both with your motor skills, your movement. So I could never play any kind of sport, absolutely hopeless at any sports. And before all the games and gadgets that children have now, sport was very, very important, especially for boys. So that was one of the problems. It also affects the way your brain processes information and remembers things. I don't want this talk to dwell on that too much, but it's important for the context. So when I got to the age of 17, I decided that it was very difficult to continue studying. So I decided that I would just try to get a junior job in the civil service. And that's where I went, and I started working in the civil service, and I stayed there for, as you said, already 34 years and counting. I did exactly what you said at the beginning. Try to work hard and let the results show themselves. And fortunately, on many occasions, I was in the right place and right time to be recognized for what I was trying to do. Equally, I learned a lot. I like to interact with people. I like to also, with my spare time and with any money that I earned, I would spend it on traveling. I first came to India, for example, in 1988, when I was still a teenager, and I traveled in Kashmir and Ladakh and Shimla. And, I really benefited from all of those travels. I've been to 115 countries, I think, last count. And it's not so much the places you see than the people you meet and what you can learn from them. I've always approached life with the philosophy that everybody you meet as you go on your journey, you have an opportunity to learn something from them. You may learn something good, you may learn something that isn't so good, or a behavior that you wouldn't want to replicate. But there's always something you can learn from everybody you meet. And although you can't take the chance to meet everybody that you encounter in life, if you make the effort to engage with as many people as you can, I think it will make your life richer, and at least in my case, it's made my life much happier in that sense. So I worked in the civil service, as I said, for 34 years. But a key point came in 2014 when I had the chance to transfer from my ministry, which is the equivalent of India's Home Ministry, into the Foreign Service equivalent, which is the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. So I made that switch in 2014 after a secondment there that proved to be successful, and I took up a job in Nigeria. And I think in Nigeria, that was really where I got to benefit from working, particularly with young people, and young people that were doing amazing things. And a lot of this was sort of on the fringe of what my primary work was, as helping run the political section, and personally my own interest. So I got involved in, for example, helping set up an NGO to promote anti-littering and recycling, which we called Stop, Don't Drop, and which I'm happy to say, since it was established, has continued to grow and develop as an organization. So that was one of the things that I was very proud of in Nigeria. And then I had the opportunity to apply for the role in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Since I took that role up, I have indeed been involved in all of the things that you mentioned, Reshma, at the start, and probably, if I think about it, a good few others. I try to pack as much as I can into every day. And people often say to me, because I'm actually a little bit old now, in my 50s, they say, how do you get your energy? How do you manage? And I always answer the same way. I say it's from the young people, the youth. The youth of the country are the ones who give me the energy. And there's nothing happier than working with the young people that we have been aligned with on interfaith work, on anti-fake news, engaging young people on climate change. All of these interactions are extremely special. So that brings me up to today in just a few minutes. Hopefully I didn't talk for too long.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was a very interesting journey that you have shared with us. And as you've said, that how difference can be brought about in the lives of people. And as you say, success is always measured by that. So I really get motivated with your thoughts and the way you guide the young people. So coming to the next question. This is about the child trafficking in Andhra Pradesh, which the British Deputy High Commission has been closely working for. So the tribal regions are vulnerable to the underreported problem of sexual abuse and trafficking of minor girl children in Andhra Pradesh. So a campaign was organized to sensitize the tribal community to prevent girl, child and women trafficking and build capacities of the survivors to avail support and rehabilitation. So if you could throw some light on this particular issue, which is very sensitive, and not only in Andhra Pradesh, but in many rural parts of the country.
Indeed, it is extremely sensitive and tragic. Unfortunately, these issues, there's always a lot of vested interests, and not all of them are necessarily in relation to the well-being of the victims, which are often girls, but we should remember sometimes can also be boys. And I mean, each time we come across this kind of issue in the world, I did deal with it in Nigeria as well. The dynamic is a little bit different, and it's important to understand that. So our first encounter with sexual trafficking in the Telugu states as the British Deputy High Commission actually came in one of the temple towns in Telangana. And we worked there with the police and others. You always need a multi-agency approach to tackle trafficking. We did some training, and it was relatively successful as a project. But my colleague Nalini, who has done a lot of work in erstwhile Andhra Pradesh, in the tribal regions of Visakhapatnam, was very keen that we should do another project up there. We'd heard from some journalists some quite harrowing stories of young girls being lured into going away with young men who perhaps pretended to be boyfriends or other situations, and then found themselves in a trafficking situation. It's complicated because there are a number of reasons why young people may decide that they want to leave their area, but equally, once that happens, there's also the reaction of the family, and the reaction of the family is also sometimes complicated. I mean, they may not want to report that their daughter is missing in the first place because perhaps there has been some incidents that they feel ashamed about, and equally, if the daughter was to try to come back, they may not be ready to accept them back. And these are the kind of issues that can arise that make this even more difficult. And of course, when victims of trafficking are identified and brought back to their families, they're at much higher risk of being re-trafficked than would normally be the case for a young person. So we wanted to raise awareness of this problem, but also the problem of sexual abuse of minors that, again, the journalist had reported about, that was going on in the Araku Valley region because of the influx of tourists there. So again, there were a number of stories relating to that. So, I mean, our intervention wasn't a particularly big one, but we did identify a small NGO that worked in the region, a real grassroots NGO, and we partnered with them, and we tried to deliver a similar package to the one that we delivered in the temple town in Telangana, in that we had to do awareness raising and training of girls and boys in schools in the region to understand their rights, and to understand what kind of behaviors are and are not acceptable. When we also look to do training with the police and with some of the other agencies in the region, and also some engagement with the parents as well. It was unfortunate that it was quite a finite period and quite a small amount of money that we were able to contribute to this, but it definitely raised the profile of the organization and the work they were doing. I think that overall the impact again was positive, but it's not to say that there isn't work to be further done in the Araku Valley. This is still not a problem that has disappeared by any means. People need to be vigilant, and people need to report things that they encounter which are clearly not right.
Yes, very rightly pointed out, and sad to hear the increasing number of child trafficking cases day by day. So, sir, in your view, what do you think are a few of the measures that could be taken for the betterment or for the development of those people in and around the tribal and rural areas, apart from awareness and education?
I mean, I think the main thing that needs to happen is that people need to be joined up and say, no, we don't want this to happen in our community. And this is something that I've seen happen in for example, Nigeria, also in Ghana, where there were particular towns, particular villages, which were known to be source points for traffickers. They would go there and they would identify their victims there. So when you're young and when you're impressionable, it's much easier for somebody who knows what they're doing and has a particular adverse intention to be able to make progress, to be able to, I mean, the term we use in the UK is grooming, but by able to get somebody into the mindset of becoming a victim of trafficking is what I'm trying to explain. But there's a lot of indicators that can show that this is a direction in which things are going. It's not something that happens that somebody goes, in most cases, and grabs somebody and disappears with them. Usually there's some degree of compliance by the individual, even if it may be very misguided at the time. So if a community as a whole can decide that it doesn't want these kind of behaviors to happen, it can be stopped. But like I talk about, a multi-agency approach, which includes the obviously those responsible for child welfare in the community, the police, the school teachers, the parents, and others, that will all stand together to say, no, we're not going to stand for this in our community. Then it reduces the space in which these traffickers can operate. They won't be able to achieve their objectives anywhere near as easily. Unfortunately, it probably means that you displace them and they'll go and look for another target somewhere else that's easier for them. Those are the structures that need to be put in place to address this. And if you know that there's a problem with young underage minors being encouraged into prostitution in an area, and often if anybody ends up in that situation, they also become more vulnerable to subsequent trafficking. It invariably will cause conflict with the family, and then if the person subsequently disappears, the family will not be reporting it. So again, it's to say no to this kind of thing. And there are a number of accounts of where this has been offered to visitors that go. Some visitors that have gone undercover and stayed in some of the guest houses in the region have been offered if they want to have a young girl, etc., etc. This kind of thing is unacceptable. But again, the community can say no. There's a lot of vigilance. There's many people in India at the end of the day. There's many people, even in the Araku Valley, there are many eyes. And it doesn't take very much to understand where something is wrong. So either you can ignore it and say it's none of my business, or say, no, I'm not going to stand to see this. This is enough. There's too many stories to really go into it here. But there are definitely measures that can be taken. I mean, rickshaw drivers often also said to be part of the process. You'll find the rickshaws parked outside the schools. They'll go off, and then the girl will come back sometime later on. They're complicit in the process as well. Not every rickshaw driver. And again, education of them too is another important element. Just as in the temple time, there was also education of transport workers as well. This is another industry that can be caught up in this. But it's possible with determination and persistence to make, I think, just about any area one that rejects and says no to trafficking. And there's even as simple as visual deterrence, having posters, having information campaigns within the community. People are in general very ashamed and shocked when they hear about this. Some people generally they're surprised, but other people probably know what's going on and choose, for whatever motivation, just not to take an issue with it. But probably the time has come for people to say no. And I think with the advent of the internet and all that, there are even more dangers. It's not a very good connection up in the Araku Valley, but it's improving, and that will bring new dangers, but equally it brings new opportunities, because the more young people are socially connected, the more they can actually also take action themselves and try to and try to say, no, this must not happen. This must not happen to my brothers and sisters. So that's also a really important element on which to build. But the whole cyber world is another huge and complex subject.
Yes, very truly pointed out. So, as you said, determination and persistence, and if all of us could be determined and persistent, I'm sure all of us can join hands together to fight and curb these social issues that have been, consistently pertaining in the society. And sir, just to add to this point, I would be really proud to say that the British Deputy High Commission, through this program, had created a platform of stakeholders, tribal representatives, media, law enforcement agencies, including police, lawyers, judges, and prominent NGO representatives, government officials, and survivors to discuss and bring about policy recommendations to address the issue. And I was really glad to be a part of this, and I hope we continue to do this in the tribal and the rural areas where hardly people are heard.
Thank you.
So, so could you share a few other campaigns that were organized to sensitize farmers and women?
I don't think we've done so much for farmers, if I'm very honest. Not specifically for farmers. For women, again, I'm not so sure that we have done specific women-focused projects, but we have tackled some of the challenges, particularly those that are orientated towards the girl child and her development. So one of the issues that I'm sure people know about is early marriage and forced marriage in many cases as well. And often, this is, again, it's a complex and sensitive issue. I understand that. But often one of the most simple ways to avert child marriage is to educate the girl child about her rights. And help her understand that she can say no, and the recourse that she can have to prevent it happen. And by educating whole communities of girl children about this, it's not only that they can protect themselves, but they can also look out for others in their community. So, I have supported quite actively the NGO called Voice for Girls, which is based in Hyderabad, on this. I've also supported another NGO, Taruni, with a specific project targeting Warangal, which is a district that has one of the highest rates of child marriage in Telangana. Again, this is about awareness and about engaging the right group of stakeholders, including the collector in the district, including the police, including social services people, including some experts from some of the civil society organizations as well, and indeed the parents too. As well as engaging with the girls and getting partnerships in most cases through their schools to be able to achieve that. So we had one specific program in that respect, and the other area, I guess, that we have been active more on entrepreneurial side is promoting women entrepreneurs. We have collaborated with WeHub, which is, I think, India's first incubator for female-led businesses. Again, that's based in Hyderabad, but it's open and increasingly open to women entrepreneurs from across India, particularly as much of the interaction now is virtual and online. We've tried to support that and project the success of some of the women that have passed through that incubator. Indeed, there was one particular company that was established that won a place with something called Go Global, which is a opportunity the UK provides for startups every year to go and join other women-led startups from across the world in all of the countries that we're doing similar work, and that had incubated out of WeHub. So we were very happy about that. And of course, when these things happen, it's about trying to amplify the story and share it and inspire other women why they should also, not just have the dream or not just continue to do the very small scale business, but look at scaling up and believing that actually they can do it, even though it's immensely difficult in many cases. So these are the kind of things that we do. We also have a big celebration of both International Day for the Girl Child and Women's Day every year. Happily, they're spaced about 5 months apart. So that means that I always give up my role, usually on the International Day of the Girl Child, but this year will be later because I'm not in India. We will do it around the 16 days of activism in November instead. I give up my role as Deputy High Commissioner, and a young woman will come and do my job for that day. There's a competition, a video competition, where all of those who aspire, usually it's girls aged 18 to 23, can shoot a 1-minute video answering a particular question, and the winner will have that opportunity. And indeed, there's an even bigger prize. The very best one will win the chance to be the High Commissioner in Delhi for the day. So we run that every year for the last 4 years. And on Women's Day, I always like to host a big event, the biggest event usually that we host as a High Commission in the year. It's not because it's usually on my birthday or the day before, but it's really a celebration of all the women that we've acted with in different contexts over the year, bringing them together and celebrating some of their successes, and letting them hear from each other and letting them network with each other and build new contacts through which new opportunities can arise. So I guess they're the things that we are doing in that space.
Yes, and I was also really glad to be a part of a few of the initiatives taken up by the British Deputy High Commission. So one interesting point that I noted was about the startups for the women, to encourage women entrepreneurs and to take up work. So could you throw more light on the support that is required for these kind of women? Because startups is also really a good idea to encourage them and to enable them to come out of their homes and become entrepreneurs.
Yeah, okay. I think, again, it's not my area of expertise. I'm not the one that would advise. I'm the one that would highlight where there's been successful stories. But I think for any woman who's interested in that, they should explore the possibilities that are out there. And again, it comes back to the internet. It makes things so much easier to access information. So WeHub, that's just WE and then Hub, which is the incubator that is specializing only in startups for women, is a good starting point and a good resource. And it runs a number of programs every year, including ones that are looking for women who are in that position of just wanting to get into a space of turning their dream, their vision of how they could have a small business into a reality. And they run different scales of, they call them boot camps, I guess. And at the moment, I believe where they run them, they're all done online. They will help the woman understand what they have to think about, what they need to do, how to make a business plan, how to access financing, all of these questions. Those who are determined, those that complete the program, are in a much better position to then go ahead and start their enterprise. So it's worth checking out the WeHub social media and the WeHub website to look at what opportunities there are. Certainly, when I'm aware and when they tell me that they have something new coming up, I will always publicize on my social media. You can find me on Twitter, Andrew007UK, or sometimes on Instagram as well, with the same handle. I will always publicize anything that is in that kind of space within the region. Also, my office UK in Hyderabad gives similar publicity on its handle as well. So do check those out, and if you're interested, and feel free to reach out and ask questions if you wish. We try to make the right connections.
Sure, sir. Definitely, we would try to reach out to you and from our side and do as much as we could. And also, so one interesting point about heritage that I would like to make is I keep seeing your posts on the heritage structures and the need to conserve them, protect them, and preserve them. So what is your say? I mean, out of your experience, what is your say on the heritage structures and how important they are to define a country's history? And heritage structures can tell so much about a country.
Okay. I personally, I think they're very important. It's very important to understand where you've come from and remember all of the highs and lows of what has come before you. And that also helps in going forward. Secondly, also, I think a good heritage network in any city is a real asset in terms of tourism potential. People are interested in looking out and seeing places, but they have to be signposted and properly advertised, highlighted, if they're going to optimize their benefit. And if you're talking about some of the rural places, I mean, in Andhra Pradesh, we have places like Guti. Guti is a small town north of Anantapur, and it has a tiny village, just 2,000 or 3,000 people perhaps are living there. But it also has a very historic fort. Now, if that was a very sleepy place, not many people go there. If that same village was picked up and dropped into Rajasthan, you can imagine that would be a town around the whole economy would have built up around that fort. The fort would be alive with visitors. There would be small Airbnb or other places for people to stay. There would be some people in the catering business as well who are profiting because they have a regular flow of tourism. But this example of Guti, which is replicated in so many other cities across the Telugu states, it's just ruins. It's a place that, you know, young people may creep off in the evening for some freedom, but it's not somewhere that's anywhere near being utilized in the way that it could be. So I think, you know, there's an opportunity in that respect too. I feel very sad when I go to some of the monuments in Hyderabad. Some of them are in very bad order, and you wouldn't even know what they were. Others, which are well maintained, in places like Golconda Fort, have been blighted with a lot of graffiti. This kind of thing, you know, we need to educate the offenders that they really are doing a lot of damage if they're going to use this. So this is another challenge that sometimes you'll find me getting on my soapbox about on social media and making some noise. I think there's a lot of things that can be done to improve understanding and appreciation of heritage, but I'm encouraged. There's a lot of young people in Hyderabad that really have shown an interest, that have come out and joined walks and really wanted to understand, and then taken, you know, through their own ways and means to promote the importance of heritage. There's one young man, for example, that has been doing so much to highlight the preservation needs of Devakonda Fort, which is in Nalgonda district. And again, another really, really beautiful place that is receiving far less visitors than its history and its architectural interest deserves. And I think, you know, if we can achieve that, then you know, it can actually have a big economic benefit on so many people. Just like I gave the example of Rajasthan, when I came to India in 1988, it was very different, and perhaps much of the situation there was quite similar to the one I'm describing here now. But how we see things now, I think you know, this is one area that some little investment could actually really change lives of some of the poorest people in rural areas, and at the same time could really help make us proud of our cities by putting those places on the map that deserve to be acknowledged and remembered and recognized.
Yes, sir. Very true. Very true. And that was the reason for me asking, because you are a heritage enthusiast, and there are a lot of places that even we didn't know but came to know through your posts, because that is how heritage has played an important role. So since you interact with people, the younger generation, the students, and you feel that they are the change makers, so what is your message to the younger generation to enable them to become socially responsible citizens of the country?
Look, there's always going to be people there that say, see, you don't need to bother with this. Why would you want to go and pick up rubbish when 100 people are going to come and throw it, for example, because you talked about Swash Bharat and all, and that was the position in Hyderabad. That's actually the reason why I went out and I took my two sons with me to go and pick this rubbish up, because so many parents were saying, I'm not letting my child go and pick rubbish. Some of them were asking, they were interested, they wanted to help, but the parents were the ones who were the barriers to it. So by taking my kids out and going and doing this a couple of times, I wanted to highlight that apart from it being something that I'm personally think is important, and the community has a responsibility to keep itself clean. You know, you end up with a lot of plastic blocking drains and all, and you can see what happens. You can see what's happened in Hyderabad recently, and undoubtedly plastic was a contributor to some of the worst examples of flooding that was seen in the city, because it just blocks the sewers, blocks the drains, and it causes so much damage in that respect, but it causes so much other damage too. So trying to get people to actually go and do something, to actually pull pieces of plastic that keep coming out of the ground, is actually, and really seeing the damage that it can cause, is really a very, very powerful way for somebody to see and understand. And I think, most people that actually come and do it, and I'm happy, I encouraged quite a lot of people to do so, really are transformed. They want to go home and they want to reduce the amount of plastic that they're using in their household. So they begin to bother their parents. Why don't we segregate our waste? Why do we have to use plastic bin liner? Why, and so on. I don't need to have a straw for my drink, and all of these things. Each one of them is incrementally making a positive contribution. I'm definitely seeing it's the younger people that are driving the charge on reducing single-use plastic and also on wider issues of littering through different activities that are led not just by Swash Barrett but by other groups as well. That's just one example. The same thing is replicated. You talk about interfaith. Our projects on interfaith, they're nothing other than trying to get across to young people who may be a Hindu, they may be a Muslim, they may be a Christian, they may even not identify with any faith at all. It doesn't matter. We don't want them to change from what they are, but what we want them to do is respect and understand others around them, others perhaps who lead parallel lives to those people who they would never otherwise interact with on a daily basis. And by breaking down those barriers, you can really help to transform. There's so many friendships have emerged between people from the different faith groups and people without faith through our work in Hyderabad. It really is heartening to see how they've come together. And by coming together, also in some cases, bringing their families together from different communities in the city. This is at the very grassroots, one of the approaches to achieving the community cohesion that you spoke about at the beginning. Where these measures don't take place, where you have communities living parallel lives, ultimately, when there's a tension, when there's a problem, it's one community turning on another, and that's very dangerous and very corrosive and should be avoided at all costs. So breaking down barriers, breaking down fears is something that's really important. And again, there's plenty of young people that are curious and interested. It's just making and facilitating that to happen. And you can go on, you can talk about fake news, you can talk about whatever your passion is, just a little bit of something, it can begin to make a difference. You start it and you'll never know which of your friends may say, I'm interested in this, I want to be part of this too. And again, so much support available now through online means if you have that access, and everybody on this call obviously does. So I'm talking to people that can really go and make something happen if they want to.
Yes, sir. Very truly said. So our last question for the day, if you could give a message or a concluding remark for us to take away from your corner, conversation, from your point of view.
Okay. Let me think. I mean, first of all, social story, you must keep what you're doing. I think that telling untold stories is a really important mission. And, there's so many celebrities that go out and will be seen and have a picture. Even when I've been out on Swash Barrett, I've met some of them. They've come and they've picked up one piece of litter, put it in a bag, had 20 pictures taken and gone. These people are not going to change the world. The people who are going to change the world are people like you, people that actually really want to make a difference, really want to work and see through from beginning to end, whatever their mission is, whatever their desire is. Try and surround yourself with like-minded people. As I've said, there's ways in which you can find those people, those groups, whether they're physically close to your proximity or whether they're people that will encourage you virtually. You can do your work and share your stories within your community, and they can do the same within theirs. It doesn't very much matter. And don't be put off. You will always find somebody that will knock it. I'm at the moment, we're working on climate change. The UK will host COP26 in November of next year. It's a really, really big deal because it's the biggest COP meeting since the Paris COP 5 years ago. And it will really set the direction for the next 5 years in the global fight against climate change. But how many people will come and say, climate change, what does it mean? There's no difference that I can make, nothing I can do. It isn't true. Don't believe it. If you do nothing and everybody else takes the same mindset, the future of the planet generally is in jeopardy. Seeing the floods in Hyderabad last week was a wake-up call for probably a lot of people. But wherever you live, you will encounter some climate phenomenon that's going to really be shocking. And even in the small ways, even in doing some of the things I talked about with managing your plastic waste, etc., you can make a difference. But if you want to make more of a difference, there's so many avenues that you can follow. And you will learn how to deal with those people that doubt it, those people that say, it doesn't make a difference, there's no point, you're wasting your time. I can assure you that if you believe it's something that's right, if you go with the instinct in your heart, you'll find that it isn't. So it doesn't matter what your passion is. Follow your passion, follow your dream. And I can promise you that if you do, then you will feel good about yourself. You will feel good from the inside. It's not about going out and saying, look at me, I'm so wonderful. It's about feeling proud yourself that you've made that difference yourself. Very much like Reshma said at the beginning, and what I apparently told her the first time we met. And I think that really does stand as the right message to give to anybody. You go and do, and people will notice. And if people notice and acknowledge, then that's all well and good. But even if they don't, if you can feel proud of yourself, if you can go to bed at night with a smile on your face, that's good enough.
Very true, sir. So we have one question for you from our team. I would like to pose this question. Is human trafficking a crime that must involve some form of travel, transportation, or movement across state or national borders?
Human trafficking is definitely a crime. On the question of borders, it doesn't have to cross. It doesn't have. You can have human trafficking within India, if that is the question. The definition that I would give, and you don't have to move interstate. The definition I would give is if a person is taken from their own town, their own village, whether it's willing or unwilling is irrelevant. But even if they were taken from a village in Visakhapatnam to Vizag, and they were then used in some way for the advantage of another person, they are a victim of trafficking. So whether they're put into a house and made to work unpaid for a family, or whether they are coerced into prostitution, they're a victim of trafficking in that case. If somebody voluntarily leaves their village and goes to work and is receiving their payment, even if their parents may not have wanted them to leave their village, they're not a victim of trafficking. But if somebody is exploiting them, if somebody is benefiting from their situation, then that person is a victim of trafficking. It doesn't matter where they've gone. You have internal trafficking, and you have international trafficking, but it's still trafficking. I hope that helps.
Yes, sir, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, sir, for being with us despite your busy schedules. So we are really honored to have you today, sir, and your talk was a really inspiring one, and I'm sure each of us present here would have enjoyed the show. Thank you so much.
I can tell you, Reshma, that I've enjoyed your questions. I've enjoyed the interaction. I'm sorry it wasn't a bit more. But I'm always happy to engage with your group. I wish you all the best,
Thank you,
and I look forward to following all of the other wonderful work you're going to be doing on social media. So thank you, and I look forward to meeting you next time. Either I'm in Vizag or you're in Hyderabad. But please keep safe, and the same to all of your colleagues from other parts of India, and indeed to the audience.
Sure, so thank you so much, sir.